Muted himself.
Oh my goodness.
Chicago, you've muted yourself. It's okay. We can hear our intro. We would like to hear that. That's fine. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the show. Let's see. I can unmute them, I guess. I don't know if I could forcibly unmute them. I guess maybe not. Who knows? We'll just act as if. Let's see. How long will this intro take? I don't want to talk over it. Oh, they vanished. Okay. So hold on. They should be there. Hello, Chicago. Are we live? That's all I need to know. Okay. Okay, he's playing something in the background. All right, Theory, we're here. Hi, Johnny. How you doing?
Hi.
Hi, how you doing?
Hey,
Hey, Debu. It's another minute, I guess. This is so fun. I'm just waiting. Okay, but all the... Oh, I've got to make sure Insta's up, which I think we will do in about 3, 2, 1. 1, 2, 3, and then we are live on the Instas. That's how it works.
We'll do it live.
Chicago, let us know when we're live. I couldn't hear the intro.
You guys are good. You guys are good right now.
Oh, excellent. Well, thank you. I'm glad we're talking amongst ourselves. Good to see you. Hey, the thumbs up helps.
Like
excellent.
We're on the air good?
Yeah, we're on the air good.
Yeah. You guys are. Can you hear us?
Oh, yeah, we can hear you. Yeah, we just get the intro cut out and stuff, and so we didn't want to step on anything if you had something big planned. It's okay. I mean, I understand.
That's on me. I don't know.
Yeah, fear not. That's okay. I know everybody's excited about Ben Joravsky interviewing Pritzker this afternoon on the station at 5:00. So my little show just we'll just piddle along in the background, just trying to get some love. It's okay. Yeah, we can do it. So Johnny and I were talking. Welcome to the show, everybody. Johnny and I were talking.
Hi.
And I have. As I had a really fun show last night at Flappers, and I'm glad our YouTube members and our Patreon people could watch it and that kind of stuff. Super fun. Adam Ferrara came out and did a set. I ran into Arsenio, and we discussed the martial law episode that I was on with him.
Are you kidding me?
No. It was the first thing he brought up.
So fun.
Like he'd just been telling his wife or girlfriend about it like yesterday. Because I did my own stunts and I had a fight scene with Sammo Hung and it was a good time. Yeah, but it was good. He's a good guy. So we were also talking about and it's interesting having that show and being, kind of gearing myself up. And I didn't do an afternoon show yesterday, even though I have to say I was like, there were a couple of things yesterday, the Dodgers thing that Trump did, and they were just plenty embarrassing and would be, perfect fodder for my afternoon show. But I got to tell you, I had forgotten the White House Correspondents' Dinner was last night. I got so much going on, and they were definitely not playing it up around the White House. That they were. No,
I heard about it sometime yesterday afternoon, and I was like, "Oh yeah,
dude,
that didn't happen, did it?"
No, it did not. And it occurred to me while I was watching why they were not promoting it, because they were talking about what he was going to do. Oh, he's going to bring the thunder last time before the thing was shut down because of Rando Psycho, and this time, bupkis, just nothing, just. They and all I have to say is that's because they probably saw him rehearsing or / not rehearsing and working on it or / not working on it, and they were like, "Oh, you know what? It'd be a lot better." And it was after sundown for the who's at home, for those that know, and that's not a good idea, especially at his age. It was bad enough, But I guess he'd had 3 other things that day, so I don't know how many times you can go to the Adderall well, and you know what I mean. I don't know how.
It's definitely diminishing returns.
Yeah, I don't know how that stuff works. So I'm assuming. I know you build up a tolerance over time, but you can't bang away at that stuff all day, right? You can't just, you got to save it for the window. One would think. I don't know, but that seems like it makes sense to me. You can't just, gack on it all day like amphetamines on when people are on like a study binge in med school.
And there's only so much your glands can produce, because it's tweaking glands inside you. So that is like just got little raisin glands in there.
Raisin glands. I love those. Those are so good. They're like right up there with grape nuts as my favorite, morning treat. Yeah, raisin glands. Oh God. It sounds like something that Pete Hegseth is trying to cure in our armed forces.
Yeah. First, you got to test everybody to see if their glands.
That's
are
right.
raisins.
So and then if they are, we can give them what's that called? Gender affirming care.
Isn't that wild?
Okay, so Trump does this thing. Where is it? Is it this the? It's this one. Hold on. So this is the joke that I have a theory about this joke, but it's indicative of how the entire evening went. And it was, you and I were talking about, like, this is the one easily deliverable joke in the whole thing. It's straight up. It's just an old fashioned joke. You should be able to tell it without any problems. And I've made the case before that the editors on The Apprentice salvaged this man's television career because he can't say his line and not step on it. So they go, "You're fired," and then they cut to somebody sweating and right in the show. But that they had to cut immediately because he goes, "You're fired. Get out of here. You're not a thing.
When I say
fired.
I'm fired, what I really
when I mean fired, what you're fired. You know why you were fired? Because and they're like, just shut up and say the catchphrase. Say it right and leave it. But he can't because he doesn't know how anything works, especially interpersonal human communications. And so it's all one unidirectional, right? So this is the joke, and I want to tell you what my theory is about. Okay, here we go.
I do think we need term limits in Congress. I think term limits are very important because I see what's happening. The other day, a senator I knew got a text, a great guy, from his wife. And she said, "When you get home, I want to have you immediately come up the stairs and make love to me." And he said, "I can't do both." You know what? In other words, can't go up the stairs and make love. Does anybody get that? Well, I thought that was actually pretty good. That was actually the only thing I thought was good in this whole freaking stupid speech that they wrote.
Wow.
That was the only good one, and that went down with not exactly great laughter. I think, in other words, you can't go up the stairs and make love, too, So we're looking for term limits. Does anybody understand this stuff?
No.
Okay. The problem is, yes, it's a direct joke. We get, of course we get it. You want term limits. People are so old. The wife said, "Come up the stairs and make love to me," and the guy said, "I can't do both. Leave it alone." And if you were Rickles or something, you throw anyway, gang, right? There's a transition. Anyway, but enough about my theory. Okay, so my theory is, if you'll recall, and this is a very telling word. Now, we know that between, now and the last time they were doing this, Lindsey Graham has died. But clearly, this is not a story about Lindsey Graham.
No.
But it probably was a joke about Mitch McConnell last time, because there is no love lost between these two guys, right? And so Mitch McConnell's so old, Elaine Choo Chow or whatever he called her. Remember that? She said, "Come up the steps and make love to me. I can't do both." Right? That was a Mitch McConnell vote, because he was mad at Mitch McConnell for not voting with him and voting against him, or whatever. Anyways, so myriad, whatever. I can never track when he likes and doesn't like somebody. It's usually when they're in the room or not, because he's kind of a coward about these things. But a couple of things. That you can't do that joke about Mitch McConnell right now because nobody knows if he's alive or dead, and he's not in the Senate, and the God's term limits seem to be queuing up to solve that problem, as it were. But here's the thing. Listen to the very first sentence.
I I do think we need term limits in Congress. I think term limits are very important because I see what's happening. I see what's happening. The other day, a senator I knew got a text, a great guy.
A senator I knew.
Oh, no.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Oh,
A senator
no.
I knew. First of all, why do you need term limits on somebody who's no longer a senator or no longer around? Right?
Wow.
He let it slip. I'm pretty sure that means McConnell's dead and he knows, but they're keeping it close to the vest so that, Bashir can't put a Democrat in using a different piece of, an obscure law in Kentucky. He said new. And again, of the two people that we know of in the Senate that are, that have recently passed or possibly passed or in the position to pass, the only one with a wife is Mitch McConnell. And he said he knew him. This is how, dope-brained this idiot is at this point. We got to take a break. The other one was he makes this term limits joke, and everybody's, he's like, we need term limits. And then he says he's going to run for another term himself and doesn't get the crisscross at all.
Hal Vickery jumped in with an advance pay super chat.
I saw that. Oh, my God, Hal Vickery. Thank you. Yes. He goes, I managed to listen to about 2 minutes of Trump last night, and it was terrible. I won't be here next week, so there's an advance. Oh, thank you so much. And travel safe or whatever you're doing, Hal Vickery. Thank you so much for your support. We have the best chat room in the world. We just do. We'll be back right after this. It's the Hal Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide. Hopefully we've gone to break. The Chicago's muted themselves. Let us know. All we need, I'm hoping we'll just play it out like this. We're at break now. We're pretending to be at break. It's the break song. We're at break. It's song. The camera's pointing the other way, and he just gave me the thumbs up. We're all right. So,
oh, you can see him?
Yeah, well, it's pointed the other way. It's your camera when we were sitting there. You know that one.
Oh, okay.
And so he's walking around and give it. Yeah. Let me put this in here. Dink.
Video has surfaced recently of Elon giving a speech referring to World War II as World War XI. And they asked her about that. She thought she got it right. But I'm not surprised because she's a low IQ person. And she's also a very dishonest person. And she ought to get the hell out of our country. She shouldn't be here. She shouldn't be in our country. She also calls her brother husband number one. Omar is reportedly being investigated for fraud.
He starts getting the.
Okay.
What was that? You Chicago? What'd you say?
We're about to come back.
Excellent. Thank you.
Back to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
Ooh.
So the only other joke I could find that he actually attempted was about Nicki Minaj.
Yeah, what was that?
A lot of different feelings going on in the room at that moment. But after hearing the gunshots, many people yelled, "Get down, get down," which caused Nicki Minaj to start twerking. Do you believe it? Get down. She's the only one that really understood what that meant. It's quite an evening.
It's quite an evening. Quite an evening.
Wow.
Yeah. So I think that was one of the earlier parts of it where people were like, okay, he's making jokes. Right. Yeah. Yeah. And then again, by and large, there was a big Fox table and there was a big White House table very close, and most of the laughs you're hearing came from there. And other people laughing at him trying to tell the joke. So there was this this big it was an ongoing thing about like people laughing at his attempt to just form these jokes, like put them together. Yeah. And then eventually it wore off and everybody was just kind of frozen. It was like, I remember watching as it got from like midway through and when he went after Caitlin Collins or whatever, I think that was kind of the tipping point. Yeah. I kind of watched it a little out of order because I was, was like rolling back and like, did I hear what I thought I did? It was, so here's him talking. We've heard this stuff before. So this is him talking about Caitlin Collins.
I want to personally congratulate CNN's Caitlin Collins on receiving her award. It was all about me. It's a fake. She shouldn't get the award. It was a fake, but I didn't mind. I said, Caitlin, congratulations. But it was fake. There's no question about it. But she's a young, attractive woman. She never smiles. I said, Caitlin, do you have a smile?
Wow.
Johnny, in the video that I'm playing, do you see this dude cringing right behind where you are? He just that's the room.
Smile. You have a nice position. You're at CNN Fake News. You should be a happy person. So smile, Caitlin. But I want to personally congratulate.
By the way, that's the entirety of it. Now, I got to tell you, as off the top of my head, just rolling into this, I could spitball 8 or 10 jokes that accomplish the same thing, and it annoys me when stuff is,
Right. It's got to be horrible. Just like me watching a guitar player going, here's what you could have done.
Yeah, right. And in this one, I don't want to give this idiot any ideas, but the joke here, and it doesn't work anywhere else, so it only works at this setting, is, because he told her to smile in the White House. He did this before. So it's, Caitlin Collins got a story for writing a story about me that she never talked to me about, or whatever you want to say. I don't know, some random dodge he would throw in, and then just go, and I asked her to smile, and she said, I am. That's that, you know what I mean? You just leave it there, like, and move on, do a tack on each of these. And if you're doing 8 of those in a row, they build, right? You go through each person and you make a whatever that little dig is, and then you move on to the next one. He can't do it. And he's so defensive about his own criticisms that there's no room to, there's no anchor to any of it. It just it's just this blob of garbage. And he's slobbering. He's fading. He fell asleep on the stage, which obviously I can't show on the radio. But he was doing the full old man. He's doing the near head back. And because it's 10 o'clock at night or whatever, and well past his bedtime. But this, I was genuinely shocked. I didn't expect that I would be shocked. I was like, this is going to be terrible, and it'll be grievance-filled, but they'll put something together for him.
Right.
You know what I mean? But then it occurred to me halfway through, I was like, yeah, this sounds like the best Gutfeld can do. This is like, we've reached peak Gutfeld. That's where we are. And so what it is that's what we're saying is we've reached the peak of what Gutfeld can do. And does anybody understand what I'm saying? Is this thing on? That's all right. So I thought, they put a, I don't know. I don't know why I believe this. I don't know why. I should have known better. Okay. But I thought they would have put together just a easily structured thing that he could stick to, hit for 20 minutes, and get out. And I can't tell if he chose to just do the weave because he lost his place so much. Just his right. Well, he gets lost, and it's clear he gets lost. And you can see where he goes back and he tries to look for where the position is on the teleprompter, and they're like one word at a time. That's the other thing. The reason his delivery is so choppy is because the teleprompter has like giant words going by individually. because he needs glasses, but he won't wear them. So, yeah, it was. I did not expect it to be that brutal. I don't know why. I thought at least they would keep it short, but it was almost like it was an hour. And he just kept going. Okay. So that was shocking to me. Meanwhile, the rest of the world is still in trouble. Oil, hit 100, twice in the last 2 days. The big news around the oil markets and that kind of stuff is that we've drained all the reserves in most of the countries down to their absolute floor before you have to start pumping stuff in just to use what you have. That's where you get when you have to prime these things where the amount gets so low it's below the nozzle to basically like on a pool tank, whatever, where it gets below that, and then you got to start pushing the thing around to get the pool water out, right? Then the drain pipe or whatever it is. You know what I'm talking about? Like the above ground pools. Any other rednecks here? Right? Like, why don't they put it just at the bottom? But there's that little lip, right? There's that little lip. And you get past that, there's standing water. It's just mosquito. It's like, mosquito homeland at that point, right? So that is an enormous story. That is a devastating economic picture for large parts of the world and really rough on Americans. And it means higher gas prices that are going to come in one fell swoop. They're going to catch up with us in the next probably 4 weeks. If it stopped tomorrow, it would still happen because of the delay of how this works, how the futures markets work, how they buy and sell the oil markets right now. And part of, I even saw I'll see if I can play a little bit of this maybe, but Tucker Carlson did this whole big thing about everything is a lie yesterday, like one of these videos, like he's suddenly, because I'm convinced that he's trying to become the dweeb Alex Jones. So after InfoWars was dissolved and absorbed by The Onion,
which is doing, by the way, amazing work, by the way.
Yes, terrific. If you're a fan of Tim and Eric's awesome show, great job. You'll enjoy what they're doing over there. But after the fall of Alex Jones, there was a lot of scatter in his audience, and some went with Owen Stroyer, the guy who was partially on there, and that split. Like he got some of the kids in the divorce, and then everybody else was just jockeying for a piece. Russell Brand, Rusty Trombone, he's going for the hippie Alex Jones crowd, right? He's leaning more the RFK, esoteric, borderline religious version of that audience. Tucker's going for the very politically heavy leaning, old Fox viewer that believes it's all conspiracy and Barack Obama was, raised a Muslim and sent here like a cruise missile to destroy the country, that kind of stuff. And in doing that, he started doing those kind of titles on his videos. We're reaching the end. They control everything, those kind of titles. And in this particular case, it was about how the commodities markets are rigged. And the way he knows that the commodities markets are rigged is because, and it's always been this way. This was the part that stood out to me. It's always been this way. And you know it now. If you didn't see it before, you do now. Now that Trump's in office, now that he's in there and actively rigging stuff, suddenly it was always rigged. This is the idiot's guide to both sides do it. Where, they're like, Democrats do this too. You just can't see it when they're doing it because it's not happening.
Somebody in the chat said, "Are we being punished for the loop of Trump's face? What do we do?"
Yes. That's him. That's the little sleepy Don. Apparently that was an issue. But it was an ongoing issue yesterday, like 3 times. So I'm sorry, I took it off the screen. You're fine.
Thank you.
Yes. But in the meantime, this idea that like it's always like this, there's two legs in the same pair of pants. The Democrats and Republicans are not different at all, and the elites amongst the parties are rigging the system against you. Right? Okay, great. That's your argument. Let me hear your evidence. And his evidence is that AI currently is doing a lot of trading, the bot trading, especially in the commodities market. And it responds to news stories based on what news stories used to do. Now, where did he hear that? He heard it from me, because that's one of the things that I brought up about why the markets weren't responding, there weren't taco trades on oil, particularly the way they are about stocks. Stocks, people are doing a lot more personally, but commodities, they look for obvious fluctuations, and whether we're at war or whether we're not is one of those obvious binary switches that tells you to buy or sell based on 150 years of history in the markets. Those two things, can trigger a buy or a sell, right? So, my theory has been for a little bit that people have these little trading bots set up, and when he says the war is on, the price goes up, and when he says the war is off, the price goes down, because it's looking at it like he's telling the truth. If the president says it, it kind of has to be somewhere close to true, and so they're responding, right? But they're responding because they're large language models. They're responding to the language, and try to get ahead of the sales, because people are like, hey, make me a lot of money in oil is basically what the prompt that they've given to these AIs. So his theory is, and again, this has been going on forever, but so apparently AI has been with us forever is my point. And yeah, which is just ridiculous. We got to take a break, but when we come back, I want to explain to some degree, there are so many fires in the, currently politically. We know a lot of them. And yesterday was just Distraction Friday for Trump. They just did everything they could to make him do stuff that had nothing to do with the important issues of the day. It was almost like they were afraid of what he would ask to sign yesterday. We'll be back right after this. It's the House Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide on WCPT Radio, Chicago's Progressive Talk. I think we're clear. I'm thinking we're clear.
We gotta be.
Yeah, y'all are good. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, we can hear you
great.
talk. Yeah, just if you could throw us the bumpers so we know when we're in and out, that'd be awesome. Just the music in and out so we know when we're coming back and that stuff. Again,
For sure. Yeah, dude. Yeah, and then the rejoin. I got you.
That'd be great. That way, I feel like I'm talking off a diving board. I'm like, let's see if the water's cold or not. I don't know. Okay. Ugh.
Moving together, very much in love. A video has surfaced recently of Elon giving a speech referring to World War II as World War XI. And the Hsrpm.
Yeah, like 2 Corinthians.
But that she thought she got it right. But I'm not.
Welcome back to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega World.
All right, y'all coming back.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chicago. And by the way, guys, let's just do a needle drop real quick. This was when he was talking about Ilhan and Omar, but he gets around to Elizabeth Warren and Pritzker, and I think it's let's see if we can get to this bizarre thing. Here you go.
Sir, in the back.
Okay, so at one point he's talking about J.D. Pritzker. And he's making the point that J.D. Pritzker is fat. And you can't use the word fat and you can't say fat. So here we go.
Wants to run for president. He's doing a bad job running a state. You can't have somebody like a J.B. Pritzker, who I understand is not president, sadly. But, some people say, never use the fat word. And I don't. I would never call anybody fat. I have my own problems. It's not like I'm perfect. Sir, in the back. Don't call him a fat pig, okay? I'm sticking up for him. Don't call him you. You can't do that, sir. You can't call J.B. Pritzker a fat pig. Please. All right? Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Everyone's trying to...
It's like 6 people at his table, Trump's table. You can hear like Stephen Chung laughing specifically.
figure out who is that guy? Does he exist? But the nice part is when you do that, the press can't get you. Because I'm defending a man who obviously has a problem. Actually, he's lost a lot of weight. I saw him recently. He lost quite a bit of weight. I don't know what the hell. He's got no chance, believe me. Anything he does, the family threw him out of the business. A number of other...
That was his aside. There is yesterday he had the Dodgers over, and that was kind of embarrassing. The Dodgers owner sucked up to him. That's a fairly normal thing for a sports team to just try to be relatively apolitical, but it was clear that the Dodgers owner was a fan and a supporter and the like, so it was kind of gross. The weird part of that one is that he's got them coming over, and he immediately goes into why there's no longer grass in the rose garden. And rambling about how women used to come there and their high heels would just sink down into the ground like quicksand because the White House was built on a wetlands, and you can't have yes, we understand why you paved it, because you can't walk on real grass or you'll fall over, because the only thing your feet ever hit is tile or like golf green. Like it has to be like playable greens. All of this is kind of happening and we've got Philip Ittner joining us in the second hour to talk about what's going on in Ukraine, which is the trade back and forth. And Boston Brian has been there all week. He was on my show on Wednesday with Phil. They were together. And one of the big news pieces that came out this week that was extraordinary and it was Laura Loomer's flip on support of Ukraine. And this is a woman who is very close to Donald Trump. And so she apparently bragged about, I don't even know how I could say this on the radio, bragged about pleasuring him on Air Force One or Trump Force One. I'm not going any further. I'm not going to describe it, but or explain it any further than that. But she bragged about this part of it. Now she goes to Ukraine, and apparently they were going to send a correspondent from her podcast, which I guess is her, but she went and she experienced an actual raid, an air raid, and she had to go. Wow. She had to seek shelter, and she said specifically that she has been a victim of Russian propaganda. Now it would be one thing. Laura Loomer coming out and saying that she realizes now that she has been a victim of Russian propaganda and that the Ukrainians are not Nazi sympathizers. They did not ask for this. They were not, this was not something that they deserved or we provoked on their behalf or any of that stuff. None of that was there. Okay. It would be a big deal if she just did that by itself. But on top of that, the Senate stood up this week. John Kennedy specifically went after Hegseth for funds not going out the door. He questioned Dan Kane and asked him, who do we want to win in the war? And Dan Kane said under oath in front of God, man, I want Ukraine to win. And then he said, is Russia our friend? And Dan Kane said he started to, obviously Trump might be watching answer for a minute. But after the camera was off him, you could still hear him talking. And he goes, but I don't think they're our friend. Like, to me, no. Those both happened this week. I mean, beyond that, Trump has started to lean Ukraine's way, and it might just be that they're helping us with drones or whatever, or the fact that it came out that Russia may have very well helped Iran target American service people. And we do know that China is supplying them with the engines for the Shahed drones. And so, but, Trump has this thing where he constantly referred to these guys as his friends. Oh, it's so terrible that I would call these guys great men and all that kind of stuff. Well, this is why. It's not that we shouldn't diplomatically get along with these countries. It's not that you shouldn't, even when it's really tense, try to work something out, and be at least cordial in these high tension situations. The idea that you're going to run in there and flip over the card table and start giving everybody the bird is absurd. So that's it. But Trump being, kind of simple and binary in his thinking, that's the alternative to him, apparently. There is diplomacy that's necessary, and then there's this pretend friendship stuff that he has with both of these guys, which, again, is not only constantly being tested by new information about, Chinese spying on the country, them trying to, one of the big things is the AI that came out this week, Kimi K2, or K3 is coming out. It's going to be an open model, says the press. Rob and I dealt with this yesterday. Rob Glenn from Root Design Chicago is a great man. We were talking yesterday on Friday AI about how they're going to come out with this new model, or they have come out with one, but it's going to be open source by the end of the month, or downloadable, but you wouldn't be able to because it's 2 trillion parameters. Point is that they're going to come out with this thing, and he doesn't understand that it's built on Anthropic's, it's piggybacked on Anthropic's model, but they use Claude to build their thing, and it's subsidized by the government, and it very well may have a backdoor that can just siphon your information straight onto their servers, because that's the only servers where it's housed. They might put it in an Amazon server, but that doesn't mean it doesn't ping, and nobody cares. Trump's not even bothering you. You ask him about these things, just like affordability, home prices, all this stuff. His newest answer for everything is, I don't really think about it. I don't really care. And it reminds me of Bush 2, when we were talking about Osama bin Laden, and you remember, like, somebody asked him about Osama bin Laden, and he's like, actually, I don't think about him that much anymore.
Yeah,
right?
Oops.
And he absolutely didn't. Clearing brush and golfing or whatever. We have entered this period where, you could stack all these things that have happened in the last week, in the last few months. The Iran war itself is fully back on. We are just straight up at war. He notified Congress a week ago, 2 days before the strikes resumed, that we are going to be at war. Like, they were already bluffing about the MOU 2 days before he officially called it off and said, I think it's over. Why did he say it then when he was at the NATO summit? Because they'd already informed Congress that day. They dropped it to Congress, their little, perfunctory legal regulatory issue where they have to make an official statement. We are now declaring war temporarily. War Powers Act are back in effect. So he does that, 2 days before we start the actual firing, because they were going to do it. They knew this was a farce. There was never a ceasefire anyways, like all these things. And increasingly, Trump's response is, I don't really think about it, or I don't care.
Yep.
And the only real change is that he's saying it. Honest to God.
Yeah, it's always been true. He never cared. He's not thinking about anything but himself.
Not at all. So and maybe it's because he knows he's not going to run again. This is his last term. He's riding out the last couple of years, and he's basically just going to feather his nest with crypto and other stuff and rip off his own followers and all that nonsense. Maybe that's why he feels free to say, I don't care. But I honestly think it's just his prefrontal dementia, his brain fade, allowing him to say the truth. He's disinhibiting, and that's the biggest, most obvious red flag. The concern that I have, and I think that a lot of people have, is if he's disinhibiting like that and he doesn't care, and that's really how he feels about this stuff, then as long as he and his family are not feeling the damage, or better yet, are profiting from it, there is no end to the damage he will do, with the assumption that, like 2008, somebody else will fix it. A Democrat will get elected, and just like Biden cleaning up COVID and Obama cleaning up after 2008, the next Democratic president will spend 2 years cleaning this up, patching the debt, trying to get the deficit under control, and every Democratic priority
only to lose the House and Senate during the midterms.
Right, because Democrats are like, why aren't we doing stuff? And you're like, excuse me, I'm patching holes in the boat so it doesn't sink because the last guy was down here with a pitchfork stabbing holes in it. It's certainly the plan of the people around him. You have to understand, Besant worked for George Soros when George Soros made all of his money. He was a protege of George Soros. And George Soros shorted the British pound and almost crashed the UK economy because he did it so egregiously. He did so much of it. It's one thing to short it because you're a trader and you think it's going to go up or down or whatever. But he did it so much that it tipped the market and it almost, crashed the UK economy. It was a terrible thing to do. Soros is not a nice man. And in some ways, it might be that when he's older or his kids or whoever's running the company now are trying to kind of make up for the damage he did in the UK, because that's how he's thought of in the UK and Northern Europe, because he did this to a bunch of countries. The one that stands out is UK. And Besant worked for him when that happened. And Besant was effectively learning how to not just buy the dip. What he took away from that Soros experience was not like, oops, you don't get too close to that edge. You might tip it over and people get mad, and you won't be able to go back to the well again. What I think Besant took away from his time with George Soros was not only should you buy the dip, but if ever possible, create the dip in the first place. Manufactured dips in the market are the best because you can, since you're the cause, in theory, you can undo the cause at some point. And that's the market manipulation that we have seen throughout this entire war, where, Trump, like, they're even fighting on the weekends and then they stop on Sunday night because before the markets reflect it. So like, wow, oil prices aren't that bad. Secretly dumping, millions of barrels a day into the market to offset the cost of it and keep the price low artificially, while saying, that Trump used to blame Biden all the time post-COVID for doing this. Like, this is supposed to be for war. You know why he said that? You know why he said that? Because this was always the plan. Iran was supposed to happen the second year of his second term, the first time. The reason he says there wouldn't have been a Ukraine war is because he would have let Russia get away with it. It wouldn't have been a war. It would have been an invasion, an attack, and a takeover, and it would have taken a couple of weeks. It would have been bloody. There would have been, fighting on the streets and that kind of stuff, but it would not have been the pushback because Trump would have slow rolled the NATO response, at least from the United States in places, long enough for that 6-day attack to actually work. That was the plan. And when Biden won, they punted for a year. The same thing is true of Iran. His brain is so dough-headed, and we have to take a break, but his brain is so dough-headed that even back then, that was the year, the second year after he was out of office, 22, around then. And that's when he showed the Iran attack plan that he still had to Mark Meadows' biographer. That's when he did it. Like, we'd be doing this right. And effectively what he was saying was, we'd be doing this right now if I was still in the White House. And as soon as he got back in, the timing is ridiculous. There was a schedule. And that's where I keep saying, Trump is not an outsider. He's not a businessman who became president. He's Reagan 2.0. He's a face. He's a front for the people that actually help him get in power and stay that way. And he was just better at corralling a particular element of the electorate. But the Republicans this is PNAC. There's no difference between, the big BS bill was a bunch of Republican priorities for decades. That's all it was. He didn't invent some new thing. Even the adding power plants to AI centers was not his idea. It was a crypto thing. Crypto firms were doing this in foreign countries. They're like, why don't we do that here? Because they'll ruin the water. They'll destroy the town. They'll cause fires. Because there's a reason why it's done in Guatemala or in Venezuela or in, errant parts of China. Like, that's why. Because they don't care. We do, in theory, or at least we did. So we got to take a break. We'll be back right after this. It's the House Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide. I almost ranted right through the break.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Hold on one second. Bring this down. There you go. Where's the? Here it is. Yeah. Here. Do. Whoops.
Mm-hmm.
Whoops. Crap. Oh, there it is. Do.
Skidoo-doo.
Do. Hold on. Is that? How are the Sox doing this year? Are they playing well?
The White Sox?
I guess so, yeah. Did you hear this?
Yeah. Yeah, they're doing great.
Yeah, Trump seems to think so. Oh, do you not hear that? Hold on. Are you hearing the sound effects?
No, I'm not.
Okay, let me see if I can fix that. For some reason, Farrago ends up just being a big
You're
old
listening
jerk.
to the Hal Sparks radio program.
Battle stations, everybody. Let's go. Go.
Mega Worldwide.
Welcome back. So, this was quite a week with the Islamic Republic of Japan. If you'll notice, after he said that, he has repeated very carefully the Islamic Republic of Iran and holds right before it. He did it last night. He did it yesterday in the White House at one of his little signing gatherings because he's aware. Is this one? Hold on.
Islamic Republic of Japan.
There you go. Right. That was, I don't know who brought that up to him afterwards, but it was definitely like he saw it. Somebody played for him. It wasn't Natalie Harp, but somebody played that for him, and he went,
Republic of Japan.
And now he's like, we've had a lot of great time with the Islamic Republic of Iran. Like he holds it, and if he was sprier and younger, If he was younger and sprier, I would think he was messing with his staff. Like, is he going to say it right this time? Nah. So he was asked this week about the Ayatollah, where he is, and if he knows.
I don't want to say whether or not I know where he is, but there's a good probability that I do.
Just non-answers to try and
quiet, Hal.
Oh, sorry. Some of them are a little quiet because of how he speaks now. But let's see.
Market now. They're watching how are the Sox doing? How's it going?
How the Sox doing? How's it going? That's during the day. I will say that MAGA is hanging in there. Couple of them are hanging on. They clearly feel alone in this circumstance. They're clearly, like Juanita Broderick. I don't know if you know her account on X.
No.
She's one of the big cheerleaders. Like, yeah, oh my God, he's amazing. I wish they would have a camera on her and Cat Turd and these other folks as the speech went on. I want these people hooked up. I want them hooked up to a lie detector the whole time. And because she wrote on her X, now Trump takes the podium. He's a machine. Unbelievable energy. There's never been a harder working president. Trump jokingly floats the idea of his third term. By the way, she's one of the accounts that's handed quotes and stuff by the White House. So when they will send her clips and she'll post them. And what was she responding to? Let's see. Hold on. So this is he opens with a joke about he's going to run again.
The dangers of what we all do.
But just like my presidency, the second time.
Oh yeah, by the way. So when he did a joke at the rally, and he said candidacy instead of candidacy. I'll see if I can. No, that's the wrong one.
How do you want to begin? CSL put a drop in the staff chat.
Yeah, I saw that. It's the phenomenon. Yeah.
Phenomenon.
My candidacy.
There it is. So he said, "I'd like to announce my candidacy."
Announce my candidacy.
Okay, so he says candidacy the first time he makes the joke. That's, again, I think 7 o'clock in the evening. This is 10 o'clock, and this is your prime joke. If you really want to dig at the press, and you really are going to hit this, like this is what your supporters want. If you're a maggot, this is the joke you want him to nail. You want him to walk out and go, "I'm so glad you're all here so I can save myself the time of announcing my candidacy for president in 2028. And then do a Gene Simmons waiting for applause, hand motion, stand there. Just look around. You know what I mean? That's the joke. That's what your audience wants. That, right? You know exactly what I'm talking about, Johnny Million.
Oh, no. Hal, did you see in the staff chat several people want you to cover the correspondence dinner today or tomorrow?
Yes, I will. I'll do the whole thing. I promise. Because I will be hilarious during it. I was making myself laugh while I was watching parts of it. So I will cover the whole thing this weekend. So, and by the way, if you're going to accuse me of TDS in the chat, maggots, when you come in, your is apostrophe RE. Just that, I mean, right out of the gate. This is, and maybe, you know what? Maybe the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. It's a great example.
Yeah.
Where they're really like, "I'm going to get him." And then you misspell use the wrong one. Maybe you don't even know. You're misspelling it. Maybe you think that's actually how it's spelled because you're a Macedonian hacker farm, Russian paid bot, and that's what you do, which is fine. Everybody, I'm not going to, as Guido the Killer Pimp said in Risky Business, in a sluggish economy, never, ever F with another man's livelihood. But Trump comes in there. She goes, "He's got unbelievable energy," which I agree. It's not believable that he has any energy. And then he flops the word candidacy the other night, and then
the dangers of what we all do. But just like my presidency, the second time.
My presidency. Wow. Just like my presidency.
Time is always better. It's always better.
The second time is always better. Hold for the laugh. It's so aggravating. Like, I don't know why I want to give this idiot notes.
It's always better. And the third time will be better yet.
And then he goes, "I'm always joking." He's been doing that a bunch lately too. He throws around the. I'm just joking. I'm joking. We know, dude. We know you're not even sure you're going to make it through this one. And I do not mean he will come to harm. I literally mean he's physically not up to it, and he's increasingly aware of it. He is petrified of stairs. He is when he is on teleprompter, he's terrified of big words, anything with more than 2 syllables. I don't know what these, because these screens they're rectangular, but they're taller rather than wide, the design. Honestly, guys, if you want to do him a favor, and I'm really trying to help you out here, turn him sideways. Give him then you'll be able to get 3 reasonable sized words in that. And so the words like unbelievable and stuff that he uses all the time that he wants in there.
Can you imagine how a hyphen must just throw
Oh my
him?
God, just truncated off and just a dash. And you're like, unbelieverly. Right? There's a reason why he's having difficulty besides old and dumb. This is also it's just a bad system. But this is this idea that he used to say, Trump 2028, he puts on a hat at the end as a joke. That's his big walkout. So this was going to be his big landed joke. He's in front of the press. And again, this joke is not about whether it's funny or not. This joke is about pleasing his base.
Cool.
Bend Over Johnson, did that, play that clip on a loop, basically. Like that was the one he pulled. A bunch of them, if you look on X or these other things where the maggots congregate, that's almost the only clip they pulled. And sadly, it's terrible. It's not even devoid. It didn't even stick the landing on the one piece. They were like, yeah, I love this part. Yeah. And it wouldn't be that hard. And he does this Carrot Top moment, no offense to Carrot Top, where he pulls out a hat. We're at the bottom of the hour. I don't know if we'll be able to fit this in, but he pulls out a hat.
We're all doing good together. That's why tonight, to show just how much I care about the press, and I want to save your ratings, I'm pleased to announce my intention to, and this is somewhat of a scoop, my intention to run for a 4th term as President of the United States. I will be doing that. I will be having an official. In fact, I think I have. Yeah. I won 3 times. Now I'm going to do it again. Thank you. I'm going to do it. Should be easy. I'm getting very good at running for president. No.
Yeah, we got to take a break. We'll be back right after this. Oh, man. Dude, it's brutal.
All right, I'm going to run to the bathroom. Be sure to mute my microphone.
I promise I will mute the microphone. You have nothing to worry about. I'm going to be busy. Oh, no. Johnny. What the? Why would you? All right, I'm going to try and bring Phil in while we're working on this. But, man, I can't. At least all right, he's finishing up. We're okay. That's not. Please just don't sit out. We don't. Oh, no. Johnny, come on, man. Why? It's just, how do you not? Are you using the litter box? I'm not even sure how this works. This is just, I don't know. All right, he's nearly. Well, at least you end happy. That's the important part. That's it. You know what? You have to watch out, though. My big concern. Hold on one second. I don't dare this with Phil on screen with me because he'll get mad at me. But this guy right here. But yeah, personally, I blame the kidney.
I hope Phil didn't have to hear any of that.
Oh no, he didn't. Hold on one second. Why is my audio not running on there? Oh, because I haven't.
A very special place in the heart.
Pretty exciting. Hold on.
Who
there
put
you
that
go.
Together?
Huh? I did.
Who put that together? Terrifying.
Hold on. Yeah,
hey,
I did. There you go. And then we go back to the live. There you go. Excellent. And yeah, that's just my idiotic way of. Oh, we're coming back. Excellent.
You're troweling out. True progressive talk. Might be a good time for you guys to give up.
Welcome back to the show. So joining us from Kiev in Ukraine is our dear friend Philip Bittner. who must be exhausted from a week of having to hang out with Boston Brian. Johnny Million is still with us, of course. Did Brian take off yet? Is he still in town? I know he was going to extend his stay a little.
No, he's still in town for a little while longer.
Gotcha. This is the biggest thing this week, and it's silly that this should be it, considering all that's going on. Really was this interview that Laura Loomer went over and did with Zelensky, for like I think it's an hour-long full interview. And she basically, after the interview, did an entire mea culpa. I'll see, like, she asks him point blank that she goes, I was very anti-Ukraine. I didn't have a problem with Putin. I was very angered when you came to the United States in 2024 and campaigned with Democrats. There was an image of you signing a rocket to Pennsylvania. Do you think you were ill-advised? Blah, blah, blah. She goes, I'll admit I've said some pretty terrible things about Ukraine and terrible things about you. I mocked you. I'm a Republican. I was very unhappy with the United States sending billions of U.S. tax dollars to Ukraine when our own country is suffering. Straight fire, America first, blah, blah, blah. But she straight up flipped. She asks him, are there Nazis in Ukraine? He responds specifically to her.
People have to understand that Ukraine was under total occupation, not Russia. It's interesting. Yes, Russia very partially, but Ukraine totally occupied it during Nazism period of Second World War. And this is important that 8 million of Ukrainians been killed. Mm-hmm. Just killed 8 million. And before these 8 million, it was a lot more. It's genocide.
Right.
Where Russian people, Soviet people, they killed 6 million. So that's why,
he's talking about the Holodomor.
It's a big tragedy for Ukraine because all period of time, millions of people been killed. That's why the big territory and millions of people been killed. So, and Ukraine, maybe you are right. We have to speak about more that there are no Nazis in Ukraine and never was. So we have hundreds of minorities.
Yeah. So one of the points that he's making, no Nazis never was, and the ironic part is the pushback that I have heard, Philip Bittner, is there were, and they cite times when Yanukovych was running the country, who was a Russian sock puppet, and the previous years before that, and those guys, the sort of Azov battalion-y Nazi kind of dudes, are all over Russia now. Like that's they were almost brought home. So at a certain point, are they gonna start scooping up Patriot Front guys who have a weird accent in our own country? Is that where we are? But did that have was that seen as it's definitely a change in the administration's view or the people adjacent to the administration's view about Ukraine, which may make things easier. There's literally a picture of her like hugging him as they left. Sorry, 1 second. Why is my music playing? There we go. Hold on. Boink, you silly thing. There is. Oh wait. Hold on 1 second. Put this in here. There's always something. There we go. Boink. This guy right here. They hugged when they left. This is an extraordinary turn of events, considering who she is and considering how close she is to the president. She was responsible for people being fired in the administration. It's like she had a hit list of people that she thought were insufficiently loyal to Donald Trump. And, people were giving her credit parallel to Susie Wiles inside the White House. So this isn't like, when Tucker goes to Russia even necessarily, or Candace Owens going to St. Petersburg. She's got the president's ear. And either she got a pass to do this, or it was a genuine awakening, or both. I don't know. But it was. I think it was very smart of him to meet with her. We also talked about this week about the protests about the removal of the Minister of Defense, and he was reinstated, I think, after the protests. Was that how it worked out? I'm not up on what they finally came down on.
No,
he got a better position.
No, they replaced him with a different guy.
Gotcha. Okay. But there was some response to it that it seemed like people were, they responded well to anyways.
He got rid of the head of the army and replaced him with a younger guy that was that pleased that satisfied those who'd taken to the streets. But the guy who was defense minister. He's not.
Fedorov? Yeah.
He's not been reinstated. So they're still looking for a new defense minister. But the fact they got rid of Syrski and they brought in a young guy to be the head of the army has been met with pretty good positive response by the people who were protesting. So we'll see how that goes. There's still, more to play out. Loomer being here, I mean, people are happy that she came. Anything that profiles Ukraine and kind of raises awareness, they're pleased about. And I think a lot of Ukrainians are pleased that she's made that 180 turn. It's not gone unnoticed that both Zelensky's a Jew, Loomer's a Jew. She met with the chief rabbi of Ukraine and broke bread with him, Moshe Aransky, Moshe Asman. And there's some great pictures of her in the central synagogue of Kiev. It's a beautiful building. I've been in it several times. It's a beautiful synagogue, and so she sat down with him and had a meal. I don't think that was. I don't think that that's a coincidence. The running the through line of Judaism.
That it was a plus for her, you mean? Because Zelensky is?
Yeah, there was a plus for her, that there was a tie, that there was a common theme that ran through it, the recognition that there is a solid and strong Jewish community in a country that previously was accused of being filled with Nazis.
Right. I guess that would be the big that the president being Jewish and there being a bunch of people who are Jewish who are allowed to walk around freely and just be themselves. Especially,
there's also the whole thing about, like, are there Nazis in Ukraine? Well, yeah, you know what? Yes, there are Nazis in Ukraine. Is Laura Loomer now going to go back to the United States and ask the president of the United States, are they Nazis in the United States? Because you know what? There are Nazis in the United States.
Of course there are.
Okay?
Right. Yeah.
There are Nazis everywhere. All right? There are far-right extremist white nationalist groups in pretty much every nation in the West. And it is profligate in Russia. I mean, there's no comparison. Actually, the
irony.
If you were do it by percentage of population, there are a heck of a lot more Nazis in Russia than there are in I would even argue Ukraine. I mean, Ukraine. The point that Zelensky was making there is a valid one. You have to understand the 20th century, and the trauma that went through Ukraine through. First, the genocidal Holodomor, where millions were purposefully starved by Stalin, and I don't want to hear anybody saying that there was also a starvation in Kazakhstan. So it shows that it was it was
environmental.
It was environmental. Yeah, that's baloney. The Holodomor was purposely conducted by the Kremlin. But he was bringing up the point, and I got. Somewhere in my apartment here, I've got a SS identification card of a Ukrainian, and I'm sure it's a duplicate. But you can go to the markets here and pick up Ukrainian SS brigade badges and things like that. It's part of their history, but they also it also has I mean the big boogeyman that they like to pull out is Stepan Bandera. But the Russians actually love Bandera because they got to write his history after the end of the Second World War.
Right.
So they turned him into this really over the top boogeyman. That is not to say that Stepan Bandera was a good guy. He was not. He was a violent. I mean, he was a violent man, but
in a violent time, right?
During that entire time, this entire country was steeped in blood. Go. I advise anybody who questions the decisions that were made by people who had to live through the tragedy of being stuck either between the Russian brutality of their armed forces and their security apparatus and the Gestapo and the Wehrmacht. Go see a little movie called Come and See. It's one of the most disturbing war movies you'll ever see. It was made by a late Soviet era director. It is not Saving Private Ryan. It is not, the Battle of the Bulge or A Bridge Too Far. Mm-hmm. It's what happens to the people of a country when they are traumatized by war, and it doesn't matter who does the traumatizing, whether it is the Soviets or the Germans. It deeply damaged this country, and the scars have not healed because they haven't been allowed to heal because they've been colonized since the entire time. You also have to remember that the Ukrainian Partisan Army fought until like 1957 or something like that. They never stopped fighting the Soviets. They have hated Moscow here because they've colonized and brutalized this country.
On that note, before we go to break, and we'll come back with more, and Johnny will be farming questions from the chat room that they have for you, which I'm sure they have as well. And we got a couple of super chats I want to talk about too, which are great, and thank you guys so much. Where is Assad right now? I think he's
either in Moscow or he's in Sochi.
Right, but he's in Russia, and he fled to Russia to be with Vladimir Putin's care, just like Yanukovych. There's a myriad of these guys. There's a lot of bad guys who, when they need to bug out, their bug out plan is to go to Russia. What I want to show, and the RT has been jumping all over Loomer's interview because they're basically saying that she is a Jew, is giving him as a Jew a pass because for the Nazis that are there and blah blah blah. And what I would like to show everyone here is on screen right now, I'm showing you a bunch of stamps of Adolf Hitler. These are stamps you could purchase up until a couple of years ago in Syria, up until about 6 years ago. Assad and his family and the Syrians in their group were big fans. A lot of it had to do with what Hitler did to the Jews, and they would float around these. You could get T-shirts with Hitler's face on them. I'll see if I can find one of the pictures of those too, that say, "Give me a Syrian soldier and a German weapon, and I will conquer the world." There's a fake quote of Hitler that said, I could have killed all the Jews, but I left some alive so you could remember why I killed the rest of them. And that's Hitler never said that, but Syrians in the Assad level of the well-to-do Syrians were awash in this kind of stuff. Do you think Trump during his first term asked Assad or asked Putin why he would say quarter to that guy, or why they would be friends or close or have a profit sharing, on Captagon, which was a drug that Syria, basically all the money in Syria comes from the sale of a narcotic called Captagon, which sounds like a dish soap. Captagon, you're soaking in it, right? But it's basically Pervitin, which is the drug that Germans used during World War II to dull their soldiers' emotions and senses and make them basically 24-hour killing machines. The stories of Pervitin are legend, and there's a Norwegian soldier, I think, who had a supply of it because it was fairly common around, but he was alone in the snow and ate all of his Captagon and was awake for 7 days. At one point, he charged a house with no one in it and thought he had killed 10 people and burned it to the ground, and there was nobody home. Like that's what...
There's a great book called Blitzed that covers that whole thing.
Yes, it's amazing. And Syria sells that stuff to the rest of the Middle East specifically the Houthis and the Hezbollah fighters to and in the Palestinian territories and throughout, Saudi Arabia, to destabilize those countries on purpose as an act of, as a tacit satellite of Russia. And then off Assad goes with his Hitler-loving stamps and goes and retires to Sochi. So the idea that somebody's going to be on Ukraine's back for stuff that happened under Yanukovych previous or during World War II or previous when the Soviets controlled the territory and never bring up the obvious parallels in people that Putin is friendly with today is absurd. We got to take a break. We'll be back right after this. It's the House Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide.
See if I've got that. I think I have that nearby. Actually,
the card. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, there it is.
This is some
spooky. It's a spooky thing.
I think we've discovered a new ASMR thing.
Think Theory Radio. Saturdays at 6 p.m. You're listening to House Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
Welcome back. Yeah, there you go. So, hold that up again, Phil. And explain what it is for those that are just listening, or what that is. Yeah,
it's a German identification card for a German unit, and this is a Ukrainian guy who signed up to fight with the Nazis.
Mm-hmm.
Not pretty stuff, but also something that you shouldn't sweep under the rug. And I'm not
right.
I'm just the only point I make with all these guys who still maintain, of course, pushed by the Kremlin, the narrative that Ukraine is currently, the current day Ukraine is filled with Nazis. I mean, in the 30s, there were an awful lot of Nazis in Germany. How many are there now?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's just, it's a ridiculous
comparison,
point to
right?
make. I mean, comparison that kind of dredge it up is obvious Russian talking points because they also want to sell it to their own people, because then they'll have people signing up because they can say you can fight against Nazis like your great grandfather did in the Great Fatherland War, the Great Patriotic War, which is goes beyond history or mythology. I mean, it's religion in Russia. They're the story they tell themselves about the Second World War. Not all of it undeserved. Obviously, the sacrifices were enormous by the Soviet Union, but they've turned it into every family's got a story about how their grandfather stormed a trench with a knife in his teeth and a bunch of grenades. It's just it's mythology. There's one more other thing I'd like to mention, by the way, about the Loomer visit, and it's a point of contention I have with some people who are convinced that it's important for us to try and get MAGA on side with supporting Ukraine. And to a certain degree, I agree. Okay, yes, fine. Let's get the Republican Party, which has been hijacked by the MAGA cult. If we can get them to support Ukraine, I will take it. The enemy of my enemy is my friend.
My frenemy.
Right. But here's the problem that I see, that a lot of these guys who are advocating for MAGA to come to the side of Ukraine is that I worry about MAGA's potential influence on Ukraine after the war ends. One of Ukraine's greatest tragedies throughout its entire history is that one ethnic group has been pitted against another ethnic group. Mm-hmm. All the empires that invaded Ukraine have used this tactic to set Ukrainians against one another. Catholics versus Orthodox, Jew versus Muslim, East versus West, North, South, take your pick. This is a conglomerate. Ukraine is a conglomeration of a lot of different ethnicities because of the very difficult history where this has been the territory where empires have crossed while they fight one another. So there is this long legacy of who's a true Ukrainian and who isn't. And I see similarities with the MAGA movement about who is a true American and who isn't. And so what worries me about MAGA coming on side with Ukraine is that after the war, we might see the white nationalist American elements in MAGA, which is predominant, coming over here to Ukraine and coddling up with the white nationalist Christian Ukrainians, of which there's a community, and I don't want to see that happen. And I certainly don't want Ukraine to get to a point where people are going back to saying who's a loyal, true Ukrainian and who isn't, and who's the arbiter of that. That's
I agree. I think
Homer doesn't understand that.
Yeah, I don't know that I would worry too much about that, because there are other targets like Romania and other places where, like, the Tate brothers went, where you could find those kind of pockets, probably larger and more freely moving about, in maybe even Czechoslovakia, the Czech Republic and places like that, where those pockets exist and they know it without looking like they've turned on Trump's past statements or even future J.D. Vance being anti-Ukraine at one point. So they can avoid that entirely. And unfortunately for them, they can't go back to Russia because of the current nature of things. A couple of them have tried it. We covered that, the maggot family that thought they were going to go there and live a great life or whatever, and then they had their bank account seized and the father was sent to the front lines. You buy your ticket, you ride the ride. But I honestly think they would just go to other countries looking for similar kind of thing. They wouldn't have to go to Ukraine looking to build that kind of stuff up. There was
I don't know. I am sincerely worried that should MAGA become a deciding element within support for Ukraine, that after the war they're going to look. After the war, this place is going to be a mess. It's going to be an absolute mess. They will revert back to infighting. There will be corruption everywhere. It's going to take decades because of the legacy of the Russian Empire.
Right.
You're not going to stop corruption if the Russians find victory here. But to deny that there is corruption in Ukraine, both.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to be doing that too. After Trump goes over here, it's going to be a mess. We're going to have a struggle between those who need to understand we need to plug the holes that we didn't realize we had until this guy started, swinging his axe around the boat, and those that are like, you know what, leave them open so we can take advantage of them. That was, it's post-Patriot Act all over again. This is after this era, there's going to be a lot of cleanup that will be going on everywhere. But I do think one of the upsides that you don't have to worry about, but I want to take some questions before we get to the break. But one of the things that I'm not really worried about them going over and taking over, doing anything, is the idea that they're going to learn a foreign language is absurd. That was one of the funnier parts of.
They won't have to. More and more Ukrainians are speaking English.
Oh, I don't doubt it. But what I'm saying is that. Even that's what stopped them from. A lot of Russians speak English too, especially the ones that would want to work with American groups and try to move stuff around. But they won't learn it. Look at Steven Seagal. And I got to say, as somebody, like, I speak, perfunctory P's and Q's, kind of like probably 7 different languages. My French and my Chinese are probably my best languages, but I know how to find my way to the bathroom and say please and thank you in a bunch of different languages because of wanting to be the respectful traveler. Look, Steven Seagal didn't speak a word of Russian that I know of, except like is Vinitsnya or some nonsense, yes. But it or maybe Tovarish. Right,
Scott
same
Ritter.
thing. Dude,
Scott Ritter puts out vlogs where he goes and he speaks to Russians on like the beach in summertime. And I've seen these videos and I'm like, dude doesn't speak a word of Russian.
Right.
and yet you carry their flag.
That's right. I've been in elevators with foreign speakers in a country I've mentioned before where I've heard them being very brutally racist to other people in the elevator, and they think I don't understand. And
right.
I can imagine being in a country like Russia where they could snatch you up, you know, they could, you know, the less you know, the better off you are. That they could snatch you up, put you in a car, and you have no idea if somebody around you is going, yeah, just put him in the car. Well, like right at you. They could be pointing right at you and going, yeah, take this guy down to the basement, beat the crap out of him. And you don't know what they're saying. Like and that's who you're operating with. That's insane to me. Like that's where they are. We're right up at the tail of the break. So let's do the questions on the other side of that because we've got quite a few for Phil. And Boston Brian is in the chat apparently, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
And Gen X, thank you so much for the super chat. Oh my God, hi back to you. Appreciate it. Thank you. And Jimmy, thank you for paying for the kidney. We need all the help we can get. Yeah. We'll be back. Like, come on. Break music.
Come on.
Come on. So, I do think this is hold on. See if this.
I said really terrible things. I'll just be honest. And, you know, some people said, oh, you should delete your social media posts. I said, no, I think I'm just going to leave them because then people can see what I said before and now how I feel. You know, and I don't want people to think I'm trying to cover up the evidence. I said really terrible things. I said, I don't care if Ukraine gets conquered by Putin. I said, I don't care if Ukraine gets taken over by Russia. I said, I don't have any problem with Putin. I used to mock Zelensky for not wearing a suit. I said,
yeah, I you know, and again, I don't, nobody else. That was Laura Loomer.
Oh my word.
Yeah. She also, by the way, apparently found out she's part Ukrainian. While she was over there. Yeah, this.
You're listening to the Hal Sparks Radio
Here, I'll play this and we'll ask a question.
WCPT.
This is it.
I guess I am Ukrainian. I guess I went from being anti-Ukraine to discovering in Ukraine that I am Ukrainian. So it's quite shocking, but I appreciate everybody who has been so kind, and I'm not afraid of the Russians. I'm not afraid of Putin.
So that's Laura Loomer again. Suddenly, you know, the 180, which, I mean, it's about time. I don't expect her to apologize to folks like us that have been, you know, screaming our fool heads off for years, trying to convince these folks that they are being bamboozled. She specifically admits it. I mean, what struck me about it was her admission that it was Russian propaganda. She fell for Russian propaganda. She's not mincing words, and nobody needs to like her. Nobody needs to be, you know, supportive of her. That's nonsense. Like, you can just check it off as like, wow, the tide is turning. It's like those floating water level things. You could just mark it on the bottle or whatever that this is how high the water got before it receded. And this is an extraordinary thing. I don't need to listen to her about anything else. There are millions of people in the world that politically and economically and psychologically and spiritually you could go listen to. But the fact that she made that big a switch and she's that close to the president and she interviewed Zelensky and she went there herself and basically called the entire Republican Party's bluff is an extraordinary thing. Yeah.
I'll take it. Mm-hmm. I don't trust her. I don't believe her, but I'll take it.
Right. So let's get some of the questions, Johnny. What do we got?
Yeah, I've only got a couple so far. The first one is coming from Edward Bremen. Can you ask Philip how many wild berries Russia has left, and do they meet fire code?
Wild berries are all over Russia, but they're mostly the little offices. What Ukraine has been hitting is their storage, is their sorting and their storage facilities, and they can't have too many more of those. Not on the scale of what we saw in Petersburg or Moscow. And it would make sense those are the largest because those are the largest urban centers. But yeah, I mean, it's how many Amazon, outlets are there? Where physical brick and mortar, those still exist, right? And how many storage and sorting sites are there for Amazon? I mean, it's comparable. Wild berries is an enormous part of Russian society, and that's why they're so ticked off about it, because now everybody who used wild berries for their like little Etsy or whatever kind of their little virtual stores that they create and then use wild berries as the intermediary, all of that business is gone, because it's increasingly nobody's going to want to insure or send stuff through wild berries. So it's not so much how many wild berry facilities there are as how many sorting centers and storage facilities there are.
One of the things about that is, do you think that there's some element, because this was an enormous fire. I showed some of the footage of that on Wednesday when you were on, and you could see it from space. Like you could see weather tracking satellites seeing the smoke coming across, and it was like a volcano had erupted. It was so big. Do you think the Soviet central planning and location part of it does stifle some of the diversity of positioning, so that facility, which was gigantic, is the primary one for the Moscow region entirely, instead of having, like in Chicago or LA or New York, they have smaller ones in different places? That this would, it seems like it was all eggs in one basket. I'm sure there's little sorting things, but
there's a lot of there's still that very kind of centralized planning mentality in Russia, so I'm sure that contributed to it. But also, the geography of Russia is such that you can probably maintain a logistical chain in Western Russia, but the further you get out into like Siberia and like a place like Irkutsk, which is at the seat of Lake Baikal, or Arkhangelsk, or up in the Arctic, Chelyabinsk, these kind of more far-flung cities, they will not have locations like that, not only because it's hard to build a facility like that, but also moving stuff around is really, really difficult. So
right.
If you're going to stockpile stuff, you stockpile it near train hubs and roadway hubs. And those become less and less the further you get out into the east in Russia.
Right. This fire is enormous, and it is still burning. It's been, I want to say, 4 or 5 days. Now, granted, any Amazon facility, if you didn't put it out right away, there's plenty of plastics and other stuff that would burn for a long time and be very toxic. Those are workmen's houses outside the place, by the way. One of the things that is missed in this detail is that when they scan by and show the outside, there are these little worker hut things, basically, that the workers sleep in, that are all along the outside of the facility for people that don't go home or are working late shifts or whatever. That's the housing for expanding it or whatever. This is the temporary construction housing or whatever they're using here. These like a shed you would buy, at Home Depot. On this enormous wild berry. I'm just saying there's not that much difference between what wild berries does and what Amazon is accused of in the United States, by and large.
Yeah.
But it is it's a huge deal, and the space of it is so big. I'll see if I can find the satellite of it, but it is still going. Yeah, this is another example of it. If I could show it on stream, but the fire itself is just. And again, still going. And if you see in the images, there's like it looks like a nuclear plant nearby. Like one of their nuclear reactors is, their power plants is just to north of it. So there, I don't know, maybe that's their data centers, and Trump got his idea for the data centers having their own power plant. He got that idea from Russia. Why not? He's gotten everything else from there. So, And again, the responses about the gas lines, we've seen a bunch of stuff with the, people getting in fights. That's one of the big things that's popping up online, is people fighting over gas. This is clearly now having an impact in a way it did not before. For the first time, I've heard like two people in the maggot sphere adjacent say that officially say the tide is turning. Now, I believe, and I think you do too, that it turned a long time ago when they stopped the advance. That was the thing. Like when you stop the advance of an army that big, the tide has turned. Whether you're able to turn back the tide is another conversation, but it certainly isn't flooding like it was. But now that they're saying that, and you had that mill blogger who was put in a mental institution for questioning the war in Russia week before last, this is starting to hit home, no pun intended, where they are striking these kind of facilities, and the average Russian is starting to feel it. And I think a lot of people are afraid in the United States that we might start feeling the Iran war in a similar way if we get hit with a terrorist attack or something like that. That's part of the blowback. That's what occurs when this is going on. And if you start hitting civilian infrastructure like Trump is, there's going to be a reasonable response. And I'm not advocating this at all. Don't take me wrong. I think it's wrong when we do it, and they'll do it.
Yeah. And also I've said before, God forbid we should have an Operation Spiderweb inside the United States. And if you don't think the Iranians got every single bit of forensic evidence from the Russians about how the Ukrainians conducted Operation Spiderweb, which was their covert massive drone attack that took out a bunch of strategic bombers deep in Russia's territory. If you don't think Tehran got all the information from Moscow about how that was conducted, you're fooling yourself. How would we react if there was an Operation Spiderweb outside of, Andrews Air Force Base, or take your pick, at whatever base in the United States? We'd freak out.
Yeah.
And they have, it is possible for them to do it. Our security apparatus is better than the Russians. I think the Russians underestimated the Ukrainians considerably.
They ignored our intel last time when in the theater attack.
Again, because they're suspicious and all the rest of it. And they doubt their enemy's capabilities. But then we underestimate the Iranians. So I don't think there'll be an Operation Spiderweb inside America. But my point is still, you're right. I mean, what about the possibility of some sort of Iranian retaliation? I will say that a lot of Ukrainians are finding great pleasure in seeing all the posting in social media of Russians going, "Why are they doing this to us? What did we ever do to them?"
Right.
And it's like, come on, man.
Yeah, right.
You've demolished entire cities. You know what's going on here. But now that it's touching you, it's like, what did we do? What did we do to deserve this? And it's like, well, so I know a lot of Ukrainians who are making a lot of really good memes and jokes about this, because it's like, well, you deserve it.
One of the, let's see if I can, I wanted to show you something. This is a little story, by the way, linked to the wild berries thing. So I don't know how many people know this, but this is from 2024. That at one point the owners of wild berries, a married couple, a Russian oligarch married couple, both were trying to steal. They were getting a divorce, and they're trying to steal wild berries from each other. Remember the big Bezos divorce, and where he paid her like $300 billion or some ridiculous number? I don't know what it was. $30 billion, and everybody was like, "Oh my God!" And then she's handing it out to charity, and people are like, "Oh, good for her." And they were like, "That's ugly." Okay, the Russian equivalent of Amazon, wild berries, the owners were getting a divorce, and each side paired with a Russian gangster that was opposing the other to try and steal it from the other. And at one point, there was an open gunfight at the Russian Amazon headquarters at Wildberries in Moscow, because they both hired gangsters to come in and try to kill anybody, I don't know, in accounting who was signing off on who owned the company. And 2 people killed, several others injured in a shooting incident. Yeah, at the headquarters.
This is how business is done in Russia, though. I don't think they hired a gangster group. They may have had an alliance. They may have previously had kind of intent. The mafia in Russia is not like the mafia in the West.
Right.
The Russian mafia probably very akin to criminal or organized crime in China. Is my understanding.
Triad.
That is also, the triads are also kind of like integrated. I mean, certainly the mythology of the Yakuza is that they're kind of integrated into society, and there's a lot of leeway that they're given. In Russia, it's the same. They're not separate. They're part of the society, and they're given an awful lot. And even when they're sent to into prisons and stuff, there are organized crime gangs within the prison system. They look at it as a training program, and then they are let back into society. And it's not policing and law enforcement is not nearly as it is in the West. It's because, again, and we talked about this so many times, one of the things about Russia that separates us, from is that law is really a device. It's a tool. It's not a principle or a system or all of it is really, when it comes right down to it, power. Who has power and who doesn't? It's a zero-sum game. Now, detractors of the West will say we do the same thing. We just pretty it up with a bunch of flowers and legal statutes and stuff like that. I disagree with that fundamentally. I think the concept that while our legal system and our system of law enforcement and how we deal with power and the state's relationship with the citizenry, all of those things are deeply, deeply flawed, but at least we try to fix it. The Russians, by contrast, are like, this is the way it is. It's never going to change. We are all animals. We are all beasts, and it is eat or be eaten, and that's it.
Yeah, and, it's the natural order.
I think that difference is important. I think that the fact that we in the West try to be better, even though we fail an awful lot of times, it's still better than giving up and saying, well, it's just about, who has the bigger club.
Agreed. So we got to take a break, but I want to thank Professional Left podcast. Driftglass came on the show this week, and there was a super chat from them saying, good morning, sparklers and millionaires, and thanks, Al, for having Driftglass on this week. It was my pleasure. Hopefully we'll have you on the radio show sometime soon. That would be really lovely, and you and Blue Gal would be fantastic. So we'll be back right after this. It's the House Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide. Woo. Yikes. That sorry, that was a Telegram video on that site or whatever, from the 2 people that were killed. The wild berries thing. So there is,
it's like the good old 90s again.
Yeah, I mean, and again, I think you're right. My point overall wasn't so much that it was that they were hiring gangsters. It was just the level of oligarchical corruption stuff. Can you imagine if the head of Amazon and the owner of the Washington Post, in a divorce with his wife, ended up in a gunfight at the headquarters over who got to run the company, and it actually determined it. Right? That's the. Right? That's the thing. That
I am happy, you are happy. Yeah. Let us be happy together, whether the weather is cloudy or sunny. I will always be your funny honey bunny. I am lucky, you are lucky. Let us get lucky together, whether the weather is cloudy or breezy. I'll be there to say, hey, come on, let's take it easy. 'Cause isn't it nice to have the friends that you do? And isn't it nice that the sky is so blue? And isn't it nice to say I love you, chugga chugga choo choo, woo woo. I am smiling, you are smiling. Let us smile together, whether the weather is cloudy or stormy. I will still be there in the morning. I'll be right by your side in the morning. I'll make you breakfast breakfast in the morning. I hope that you like cereal.
Yay! Hooray!
So one of the things that I think is a happy ending, because it kind of ties with the fact that our dear friend Boston Brian is in town with you and was visiting and that kind of stuff, and he was, he's doing his own thing there as well. But we talked about whether he was able to eat the food and all this, and I'm worried about a possible love connection that might occur, because Laura Loomer did a video from the McDonald's in Kiev that had been near the bombed building. That's the one that Boston Brian was talking about that he went to, and she's mocking Tucker Carlson at this thing.
Hey everybody, Laura Loomer here. I am currently in the middle of Kyiv, Ukraine, and as you can see behind me, I'm at McDonald's, right? Because what type of American would I be if I didn't visit the McDonald's, right? The most iconic American fast food chain in every single country that I decided to visit. You know who else visited McDonald's? Well, it was Tucker Carlson, you'll recall, right? 2 years ago when Tucker Carlson, as I like to call him, traveled to Moscow, Russia, 2 years after the war between Russia and Ukraine broke out, and 2 years after the United States sanctioned Russia for invading Ukraine, he decided to travel to Moscow and talk about how amazing the McDonald's is there to prove that American sanctions, I guess he was trying to prove, don't work, except the thing is, it wasn't actually McDonald's, because you see, American brands don't operate in Russia anymore because, well, the country is sanctioned. And why are they sanctioned? Because, well, they're firing ballistic missiles. 40 ballistic missiles into Kyiv, damaging a shopping mall, several homes, residential areas.
Now, okay, this is Laura Loomer making this video. Like, this is not just she's talking about it and playing somebody else's footage. She's in town.
Yeah, she's also picking a fight with Carlson.
Yeah, well, and I'm fine with that. I'm all for the popcorn
with it.
Right,
fine. Let him fight.
I don't trust her.
Ferrets in a bag. But
that's right.
Look, the thing that bothers me about that is that I can clearly see that she is trying to find a new look. MAGA, as we all know, is running on borrowed time. Okay, when the God King goes, the whole thing frays and falls apart. They all know it. Okay, so they're trying. I think a lot of this was about Loomer trying to etch out a different lane, that she can separate herself from the Candace Owens and the Tucker Carlson.
And you got to patch a hole in the wall when you're leaving, because increasingly you're aware that Trump was lying about a lot of this stuff. And when it all shakes out, there is going to be a comeuppance. There is going to be some form of accountability if a Republican that wasn't siding with Trump or whatever ends up in, and it becomes Thune and he gets his way and he even softballs it, or a Democrat gets in, there's going to be repercussions. And part of this is, do you really want to still be siding with stuff to be a lie? That, that's a big part of that, because she knows this is BS now. And whether she did before or not is debatable, but she certainly knows now because she went. And there's her decision to go and all that kind of stuff is yet another. I mean, think of all the people that have turned on Trump, from Tillis to MTG to Laura Loomer. There's a trend. It's getting closer to home. I mean, Marjorie Taylor Greene was pretty close. Lauren Boebert signed the discharge petition for the Epstein stuff. I don't, do I like her politics? Absolutely not. But can I argue politics with somebody whose politics I don't like? Yes, that's democracy. I don't have a problem with that part. Just don't be racist, sexist, and bigoted and gross. And we can talk. That's the part that maybe everybody's trying to bury, is that this, or he just sold them a bill of goods and they're just waking up to it. I have a hard time believing people can be that stupid, but they are. Let's get more questions from the chat, because I know I will steamroll.
I've only got one left. It's ask Phil if number stations are still being used.
Number stations?
That's the question.
If I'm understanding that question correctly, maybe are you talking about the power stations, the number, the kind of different sub-grid power stations, the numbers that in the term. I don't know what.
No,
I don't
okay.
know what,
I looked up that's what I thought. That number stations are like these shortwave radio spy network things that are used throughout the Donbass and to like talk to people who are there. It's like these radio hobbyist people that operate these little kind of like, hidden. They're behind the Russian lines and they talk to people who are on the other side and kind of operate as like the French resistance in the Donbass.
To my knowledge, those are still working. Yes.
Mm-hmm. So there was the like giving digital data and basically just reading out. They call them number stations because they're just reading out these numbers that you only, unless you know the code, you don't know what the numbers mean. There's also a really creepy story of a Russian like radio station that's just been playing since the Cold War that's just on repeat and it seems to be live, but it's some guy just reading, latitude and longitude numbers, but not for any target or whatever, or those kind of numbers, but nobody can quite tell. He's just saying these numbers.
Ken Harbaugh did a very good article about this about a month ago in the Atlantic about how the resistance is organized. One of the problems they have is that you can't use a cell phone inside. You can't use a foreign cell phone, and all Russian cell phones have an app on it which you cannot remove that monitors your conversations, your texts, your location, all the rest of it. So going back to the basics of using, a radio transmitter or something akin, it actually is easier and safer than maybe using cell phones these days.
Yeah, and do you know what the level of like VPN use is in Russia or in the Donbass areas and that kind of stuff? Did they talk about that at all for like, because YouTube is blocked along with Telegram and all those other things?
Not what it used to be, because all the people who were tech savvy enough have left Russia. So,
or been sent to the front lines, right? These are the guys who are running the gas refining facilities or whatever. So that's why they don't know how to shut them off, which again is my theory about why the pipeline was blown up. It was because it was full of gas and the Germans weren't going to take the gas and open their end. So you can't vent it. So might as well just blow it up, because if you vent it back into your country, if you've sent the guys who used to run the plant to the front, who's going to do that? Pull lever, make thing, and then you hold wire, right? Like this is it was idiotic. Like just blow it up. And that goes to your point about why they hid. It's the most filmed pipeline in the world. It's got more sensors on it than any pipeline in the world, and yet we have like one sub picture, which again showed it blown out. I don't want to relitigate what a hack Seymour Hersh is again, but like. There's a documentary about him that just came out on Netflix, and it's the section about the pipeline is just embarrassing. It's so bad. But
on Netflix?
Yeah, I think so, or it might be Amazon Prime. But they just put out a document. Yeah. I
worked with him. I worked with him on Abu Ghraib.
Wow. Well, and again, like Abu Ghraib. Like I don't know that he was the primary writer on it, the primary source on it.
It was 60 Minutes, which is why I was involved.
Yeah,
we did most of the heavy lifting.
Yeah, and it's funny that he's kind of just like piggybacked on a lot of stuff and has been known for like the loudest piece that came, I think, because he went further than most people, the reporters that actually saw the stuff and were working with the information would go to make it more sensationalized. And My Lai is a great example of that. He basically wrote all those articles without sourcing the military journalist who did the initial reporting, and I would call it plagiarism. He just lifted what the guy was reporting about the situation, except the part that he left out where, an American helicopter pilot and captain lowered his helicopter between the incoming troops from Charlie Company and the civilians and told his own guys to fire on our soldiers, like friendly fire towards our guys if they open fire on the civilians. somehow that didn't play a big part, which I would argue is the biggest story of all that. The idea that people would go nuts while they were in Vietnam and go on these charging missions, I'm surprised it didn't happen more often. But what was left out often was the story is that it was our own soldiers that stopped it, put their lives on the line in between these guys, and were going to kill these guys if they continued the approach. But whatever, we'll just relitigate that for another time. But what I do want to remind everybody, since we're at the end of the show, Philip Ittner has a show called On the Edge. You must subscribe at his YouTube channel, Philip Ittner, 1 L and Philip, 2 T's and Ittner. That'll get you there. And then, of course, Johnny Million has a show, It's Johnny Million, on Twitch and on YouTube. You should subscribe there as well. And infotainmentwars.com will take you to the page where you can subscribe to our show on YouTube. And, of course, if you're on Facebook, the Hal Sparks page. If you're on Instagram, at Hal Sparks. If you're on, any of these sites, if you're on Rumble, for God's sakes, and you're just a maggot lost somewhere you're just driving around Chicago and you just landed on this, I'm there as well. But the important thing is that we keep sharing this information and reminding everybody that there are real human lives on the line. And in every one of these situations, they could be solved if we just didn't keep putting morons in charge. And I have increasingly come to the point that this is what Putin wanted. This was the agreement, and this was going to be Trump's second term. Iran, allowing the Russian invasion, were all part of the plan for the second term. And that's why Trump was so mad that he thought it was rigged, among other things, his own ego. But thank you guys so much. Thank you, Chicago, and we will see you guys next week.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you, Chicago.
And Sean H, you should tell Sean H that I will be named the Kentucky senator. I'll be the placeholder.
Oh, lovely.
If Lindsey Graham's sister can do it, I'm from Kentucky. More than she's aware of what goes on in the Senate.
Definitely the pedigree you need.
Yes, exactly. And then we got. I will play Redacted. Okay, I will do that on the way out the door. I promise. Okay, and then somebody was saying hi to Boston Brian. Mark of the Beasties. There you go. And then thank you, Treva. Then I understand. Thank you. This goes to the channel guests. I will buy them dinner when Phil is back in the States again, and we'll go to his little favorite Ukrainian restaurant he took us to and eat pork fat on bread. On you. Thank you. And then Phil, as the U.S. can't protect its troops in the Gulf, are we out of patriots to give away or use for ourselves? That was a question that was in here too I wanted to get.
I think we're running out of patriots.
Yep.
Because we don't know how to fight a drone war, and we're using multi-million-dollar PAC-3 missiles fired from Patriots to take out, $10,000 drones. Mm-hmm. They're idiots. Oh. They're idiots.
Yeah.
The military has been taken up. Well, it's not just Hegseth. It's just a whole bunch of things that's been happening with the Western militaries, and they are not ready for a drone war. They're not.
Mm-mm. Yeah.
So
I completely agree, and that might be why they're sucking up to Ukraine now. That could be it. Yep. All right, I'm going to let Johnny go. I'll let you go. Thank you. Have a great night.
This week's episode of On the Edge is about a drone producer.
Nice.
There you go.
Drone producer. So
fantastic.
Learn a little.
Yeah, please. So check out that, everybody.
US military. That's meant for the Pentagon. Learn
right. Awesome. All right. Well, I'll let you guys go, and I will talk to you guys very soon. Have a good day. Bye, Johnny.
Thanks, everybody.
See you later. Bye.
Bye.
There they go. Off they go. And I've got to head out because I have a very busy day ahead of me, and I flew in this morning from the show last night, and I'm tired. So
if they ask, I forgot it.
So per request,
we ain't saying nothing. Black bar over my past, can't track this. Screenshots cropped out, can't catch this. If it looks too wild on the axis, highlight, right click, boom, redact this. Redact this. Blood and face, can't fact check the madness. Torn out page from the bad habits atlas. If the story get messy in the ad libs, highlight, right click, boom, redact this. I was young, I was dumb, I was scrolling. Type way too much, hit send.
By the way, there's a delay between the music and my dancing. Just want you to know I'm nailing it.
With the tone of whole group chat. Got tails, I ain't claim. If my name pop up, that's a typo, blame. Who's that in the pic? Man, that ain't go strange. That's a random stranger with a very close face. Understanding my friends, I plead don't recall. If they ask for the tape, it's a missing file. If they pull up the clip, that's deep.
I will do the entire White House Correspondents' Dinner if I have to do it late tonight when I'm completely exhausted. But it will be done this weekend. Right now, I've got to go clear out a garage in 100-degree heat.
Page from the bad habits atlas. If the story get messy in the ad libs, highlight, right click, boom, yeah. If it hit too close, that's a rumor I heard. If the dateline match, that's a clerical error. If the outfit match, that's a popular shirt. If the tattoo match, that's a stock photo search. I'm allergic to question, coughing the light. I just edit the ending, soften the bite. Take the worst 3 parts of the night, then slice like fun was had and we were not. Every X got a chapter I seal. Every text got a gap in the reel. I ain't lying, I'm curating the reveal. Just trimming little bits of the raw, real deal. If you saw, you didn't. If you know, you didn't. If you talk, I'm clipping. If they ask, we glitching. Swipe that name out, crop that frame out. If it made me look foul, delete then fade out. Black ball from my past, can't track this. Screenshots cropped out, can't catch this. If it looks too wild on the axis, highlight, right click, boom, redact this. Redact this. Blur that face, can't fact check the madness. Throwing out page from the bad habits atlas. If the story get messy in the ad libs, highlight, right click, boom, redact this.
Yeah.